What's up, Birdcage Mafia? It's your boy KCB from the B1C, coming at you from the bird's nest, nestled right here in the Blue Ridge Mountains of northeastern Tennessee. I hope everyone's having a healthy and beautiful day out there. If you're a subscriber, thank you very much for coming back and hanging out with me today. If this happens to be your first time with us, welcome to the channel where we review the entire universe of Marvel and Star Wars, as well as character origins of the same. If that sounds up your alley, go ahead and subscribe and leave a comment, and that'll enter you in our 1,000 subscriber giveaway that I'll explain at the end of the video. Don't forget to comment, like, and share down below. You could be the winner of the big gift card giveaway. It's free money, all for a couple minutes of your time. From this point forward, I am no longer responsible for the spoilers that I am about to bestow upon you. So, embrace the chaos! Well, with that out of the way, let's get into the Moonknight episode review. The episode begins with the camera upside down. Symbolizing that the world order has about to or has already changed. And as it turns out, we see Osiris's avatar placing Khonshu on a wall display with 9 other gods, or seem to have been trapped inside these stone figurines, which are funerary figures placed in tombs, so, as the Egyptians believe, could come to life and serve their masters in the afterlife. This episode explains that some event took place thousands and thousands of years ago that split the ancient Egyptian gods and man.
Hello, and welcome to Staying Awake. Solving puzzles is a great way to keep your mind awake. Bored with puzzles? Try a book.
Which is the reason for the avatars and what may be happening as the David Koresh wannabe.
So before you get excited, put on the cape. I'd love to take this opportunity to show you around. Come. Oh, really? Yes. I was his former avatar. Before you, I was the Fist of Vengeance.
Harrow is trying to resurrect Amit. Next, we see a beetle taking flight.
Steven, wake up! Come on! Wake the hell up!
As Layla tries to wake Steven up and hide him from the men Harrow had sent to kill them, knowing Khonshu is in stone and Mark and Steven have lost their powers and abilities. Layla, using a lot of brute strength and balls, pulls Steven to safety and fights off the men with nothing more than intellect and a flare, blowing them to pieces.
What?
Steven and Layla use the data that they've collected from the Universal Rewind.
We should be able to triangulate the stars into coordinates, right? Let me just scan it.
Oh, well, actually, unfortunately, it's not that simple.
What they have is a star map. The ancient Egyptians invented modern navigation, and being as there aren't many landmarks in the desert, these ancient Einstein figured out a way to navigate using the sun as well as the stars. Now the problem is that Senfu created that clue 2,000 years ago, and stars drift over time. Not much as stars go, but in that length of time, they have drifted enough to throw the star chart off. Way off. You remember the room with the staff in the correct spot at the correct time of day while the Hydra Nazis are digging for trinkets in the desert? Indiana Jones. Well, that's when Khonshu steps in and, in my opinion, flips the MCU upside down and sends it right back to its infancy.
I remember that night. I remember every night. I can turn back the night sky. Do what I do.
find the tomb of Amit and seem to be getting along perfectly, which sort of angers Mark just a bit. And I told you this would come back, did I not? As they walk to the tomb, they have to pass through a narrow canyon that kind of reminds me of Return of the King, but is really a nod to Egyptian architecture. When the Egyptians built the Great Pyramids, or whomever built the Great Pyramids, they carved out narrow passages and mazes of smaller corridors to confuse and trap grave robbers. Also, they pass under one of Big Poon's show goats. So since we mentioned it, let's go ahead and hear a word from today's sponsor, Micro Motorworks. Hey, Bubba Ray! How you doing, buddy? Hey, man, are you still having trouble with that old Volkswagen you got down there? Well, you betcha, Casey B. You know it. She needs her set of points and I need a carburetor kit, but even if you can find somebody nowadays that even knows what a point is, I mean, they want a war pension for their freaking parts. It's just plain ridiculous. And don't get me started on the damn carburetor kits now, I'm telling you. Just don't. It's got me hot. You know what I'm saying? Hotter than Georgia asphalt in the middle of July. These prices. Well, Bubba Ray, have you tried to call Big Poon down there at Micro Motorworks? Big Poon? Micro Motorworks? I thought that was a golf cart shop. Well, I tell you what, Bubba Ray, you sure are in luck. Because that man's got 60 plus years experience in the Volkswagen field and nearly as many years in experience in the business. Not only that, brother, but I tell you what, he has got a collection of vintage iron that a show goat couldn't jump across. Did you say show goat? That's right, a show goat. And I bet my bank account that man knows what a carburetor kit is. I know that for a fact. So folks, if you're tired of dealing with stupid prices and people who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, why don't you guys give Big Poon and the gang at Micro Motorworks a call at 1-800-VDUBS. That's 1-800-VEEDUBZ. And you tell them KCB sent you. Y'all have a good night, yeah? When Layla and Stephen arrive at the dig site, they find no one around and a lot of blood and what appears to be an Egyptian mummification tool. Which Stephen explained to the little girl how it works in the first episode.
But in there, something wicked. Check it out. You take this big metal hook, right? And you go up the old nozzle and all the organs would come out except for the heart.
How come?
Because they believed you needed your heart to be judged in the underworld.
And who left this tool was more than likely the zombie mummy priests that we see later in the show. Egyptian lore states that these mummy priests were killed and mummified after the pharaoh's death to protect him after death as well as in the afterlife. Imagine working all your life for your boss and finally he dies and you think, alright, I get to retire and go boating on the Nile, when all of a sudden, BAM! You're killed right after he does. Embrace the chaos. That's gratitude for you, don't you think? Those Egyptians, boy, they're really different. Well, after Stephen and Layla have a touching moment and kiss, Mark, or someone, punches Stephen in the face, making him fall into the tomb.
Oh, shit!
Where he again acts just like a kid in a free candy store because of all the ancient Egyptian relics that he is seeing.
So if they just sprang to life right now and asked me a riddle for passage, I'd be thrilled. I shit myself, but I'd be thrilled.
Layla writes the Arabic letters that translate to P and A, which were her father's initials, and Stephen saying how proud he would have been of her finding the location of Amit's tomb. Stephen then gives a nod to the riddle of the Sphinxes, and then discovers that the tomb is a maze in the shape of the Eye of Horus.
Whole structure. It's a symbol.
As they go deeper in the tomb, they realize the mummy have sacrificed Harrow's men, or Harrow himself have offered them up as a sacrifice to Amit for safe passage through the tomb. The jars we see under the table were used to contain the organs of people who were being mummified and represent the 4 sons of Horus, the actual 4 directions on a compass, and were protected by a different goddess. That's the reason for the different types of animal heads that are on each jar. Also, the snakeskin that Stephen finds is there to represent how the pharaoh would regenerate himself in the afterlife. As they separate, Layla has a dance with mummy hands. And almost falls to her death as Stephen stumbles upon a great lost tomb.
Tutmo's tomb. Nefertiti. Oh, it's got to be one of the big ones.
Now, there are many well-known pharaohs that have been lost to time, like Thutmose and Nefertiti. And Stephen actually finding out it was one of the greatest lost tombs of all times, Alexander the Great, who we also find out was Amit's first avatar, who betrayed her and was buried as a pharaoh for all that he had done for Egypt, even though he was a Macedonian.
I think we're looking at the long-lost tomb of Alexander the Great.
Stephen then has to desecrate the grave of Alexander in order to find the stone statue of Amet. All while Harrow has called up to Layla, explaining to her that Mark was somewhat involved in her father's death, and actually that was the reason why they got together in the first place.
What happened to my father?
My partner got greedy and he executed everyone at the site.
As Stephen and Layla waste time arguing, Harrow finds them, and before Mark, who is in control of the body now, has time to kick their asses,
Come on!
Harrow shoots him in the chest, and Mark falls back into a pool of, no doubt, some stagnant water. Because if they just found that tomb after thousands of years, you know that stuff can't be sanitized. Ooh. But then, embrace the chaos. We are flashed into a mental hospital where we find Mark tied to a wheelchair playing bingo and drooling from the meds. So, is this just a flash that he may be having right before death? Or has everything we have seen up until this point been conjured up in his head? I think that's what the producers and the writers are trying to throw at you, but it's really confusing to figure out which is what, and now what is real.
Is that a coincidence?
Because everyone he has ran into so far in this series is in this institution, including Harrow. And as we notice the drugs wear off, he sees things that remind him of what he and Stephen have been through so far throughout this series. So, he begins to fight his way through the ward to find, strangely enough, Stephen himself in a sarcophagus.
Mark! Stephen! Mark!
As they are trying to find a way out, they find another sarcophagus that is red and beating and banging around that I believe myself is Jake Lockley. I think that's the one that's in it, but they do not open it, so we really don't know who it is. They run through the institution ward and open a set of doorways. BAM! BAM! They run face to face into the goddess of Tourette, the helper goddess, the hippo goddess that freaks them completely out. as soon as she opens her mouth. And unfortunately, my friends, that is where we are left once again at the edge of our seats and with way more questions than answers. The next 2 episodes are really going to bring all this together, and I cannot wait because I am completely and totally lost on what's going on. Well, I want to thank you guys who have made it this far with me, so I'm going to go ahead and get into the gift card giveaway. At 1,000 subs, we're going to be giving away a $100 gift card of your choice or $100 worth of Bitcoin, either or. So if you're already a subscriber, I would like to thank you so much because we have had so much luck and love to this channel in the last few months. I'm overwhelmed. And if you're not, go ahead and subscribe and drop a comment, and what that'll do is that'll enter you into our giveaway. And don't forget to slap that bell notification so it'll sure let you know when we're about to drop a little bit of knowledge. Well, folks, this is KCB from the B1C signing off. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you on the next one.